Hello, I'm Carla. I'm going to share with you two aspects about two wonderful pieces of literature. The first one is Death of a Salesman, that is a play written by Arthur Miller. And the second one is Of Mice and Men, written by John Steinbeck. Well, according to Mayer and Pacheco, the American dream in literature is a cluster of three myths: the myth of Edenic possibilities, the myth of the American Adam, the myth of success. In Death of a Salesman, the myth of success had a deep impact on us. In fact, we can make a comparison with the logical proposition of Keynes' economic theory that has a direct relation between income versus consumerism. When the income of people increases, so does their consumption of material objects. Keynes' theory has an implicit connection to the American dream because when people earn more money, they can live happy and satisfied. Actually, the play typifies the search for financial success in a capitalist society where everyone wants to live the American dream, where people's effort must have a social and economic reconnection with a certain level of prosperity. The play has many examples of how characters reinforce the idea of consumerism in virtue of the American dream, such as when Willie tells Linda about the empty house he bought working hard for it, and he says, "I simply asked him if he was making any money. Is that a criticism?" Willie, who is an insecure, unstable, lying, and self-deluded man, knows that he must work a lifetime to pay off a house, but when he finally owns it, their sons are not there. Miller wisely portrays characters who fight among different desires or ways of living. To illustrate, Willie wishes that Biff be successful through a white-collar job in New York. Nonetheless, Biff's understanding of success has another connotation. He asks, "Why, you're making money, aren't you?" Willie attempts to have Biff reflect about the importance of life without any sacrifices. He says, "Help, the trouble is we weren't bought to rob for money. I don't know how to do it." And the tragedy comes when Willie kills himself because of his growing inner conflict and could never understand that the American dream destroyed his life, his job, and his family. Hence, Willie's death symbolizes the end of the American dream. Well, on the other hand, we have Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. It was written 12 years before of Death of a Salesman in 1937 amid a serious unemployment whose rate had decreased to 6% in comparison to the previous year. The setting of the novella describes the unemployed farmer's situation at the time when the Great Depression started. In certain way, both George and Lenny dream on having a better life and looking for a permanent job and well-placed. It's the idealistic American dream. Both characters don't have a safe place for living, and the idea of having one moves them from the Salinas River near Soledad, California, to a nearby ranch. And in this novella, society has an important role since it provokes a deep impact on characters due to social preconceptions. We can perceive how Carly's wife's life desires to have a stable status quo through the element persona. We must remember that according to Meyers and Pacheco, the archetypal component, persona, depicts the social mask. The individual wears very different from his/her real self. That reveals Corley's wife's perception of being a woman, and it means to be attractive, seductive, and flirtatious. We can remember that quote in the book when Steinbeck affirmed, "She stood still in the doorway, smiling a little at them, rubbing the nails of one hand with the thumb and forefinger on the other, and her eyes traveled from one face to another." So the reader noticed a social mask that George and Corley's wife use for being part of social requirements. It means both represent the element persona in this novella, revealing the importance of acceptation in having a better status quo. Corley's wife portrays the typical stereotype of sexualized woman that shows a false conception in American literature. To summarize, on the one hand, in Steinbeck's novella does not have a complex story itself, but as simple. It gives the reader a description of different perspectives about what the American dream meant for many workers throughout the Great Depression. Likewise, the process of looking for a better life becomes in the source of the deepest character's isolation. Steinbeck describes in the last part of the novella that George, before he kills Lenny, points twice to a little place on the other side of the river. George is directing Lenny's attention to the land which he had promised him, the patch of big land on which he can rear his rabbits. It is a promised joy. The reader is invited to imagine that Lenny, when he dies, goes straight to this tranquil heaven and experiences that joy in order to finish with profound loneliness. On the other hand, we have Arthur Miller's Death of a Salesman, and Miller reacts in the middle of a hard time through a play that shows a protagonist who grows up during the Great Depression of the 1930s, where the role of society was to achieve the future success and happiness. Miller's masterpiece confronts several issues that remain in force through the protagonist's death: success versus failure, happiness versus materialism, family versus economically successful jobs, and finally, salary versus love. Well, this is my analysis about two wonderful masterpieces in literature, in American literature. Thank you very much. Enjoy it.